Hello world of YouTube, and welcome to ARC, a show where I get to be an asshole reviewing comics. And today, we're keeping it small town again. We're keeping it small time. We're keeping it intimate. We're keeping it, personal. We're dealing with, instead of my favorite comic book character in general, we're going to go with my favorite superhero. And a hero that I really enjoy, but I never really think to talk about him much when I'm talking about comic book characters that I enjoy. And that is Spider-Man and Iron Fist in the Storm Warnings arc, which ran from issues 41 through 43, December 93 through February 94. It's a Spider-Man published under the Spider-Man name, but Iron Fist is also very prominent in it, and it's basically like a co-conspired arc between the two of them. And it feels very small time and very personal. The actions in it feel very small time and personal. Terry Kavanagh was the writer on this, who is a big name in the Spider-Man comics. He did some of the writing on the Maximum Carnage arc, which is a big thing in the Spider-Man world, and helped contribute a lot to the Clone Saga, which is another really big Spider-Man arc. So this is him, just his writings in this, but it's still a big name to be attached to it. And it's alright. It's solid. It's got its moments. I do think that the setup is a lot more gratifying than the conclusion. I get that they wanted to keep it very intimate and very personal, but I feel like by the end of it, it feels kind of rushed. That being said, the setup is phenomenal. I really liked this comic. I liked reading the setup. I mean, I think it sets the stakes in a very personal way. Spider-Man is digging in some secret files at the Bugle headquarters, and he's seeing that Danny Rand's corporation is associated with these really sketchy arms dealers, which is weird news to see. But when he's finally getting to the meat and bones of the story, he's pulled away, and Iron Fist steals the evidence. He steals the research, which causes Peter to go full Spider-Man and track Iron Fist down. And I really like their interactions in it. I love their fight scene that ensues between the two of them. I like that they trade a lot of words and they trade a lot of fighting in a lot of really cool ways. I love the art of this fight, and I love the way I love how it tests both of their skills as combatants in really nice ways. I think that it's a cool set piece, and I think that again it kicks off this story well. I like that eventually they do realize that there's something afoot here, and that Peter doesn't have to go and see his former ally as an enemy, and they decide to work together to get to the bottom of this, because there's a hidden link that Danny wasn't aware of within his own company. And that leads them to finding out that they worked with this arms dealer to create these war machine, like not war machine like the character, but these war suits called Platoon. And this is where the story gets a little So there's a doctor that worked for Rand Corporation that is in the initial Platoon suit, which the Platoon suit gives him like these superpowers, like he's a lot stronger, he hits harder, he has all this weaponry and stuff, and it's very Rogue Diet Iron Man-esque, the suits are. And the corporation that the doctor's dealing with isn't happy about this at first, but they spend the entire third comic trying to spin this into a positive media thing, and it becomes about violence in the media. And I get the message that Terry's trying to throw out there as far as like how easily weapons dealers can spin negative press into positive. I get that. I just think it's kind of rushed. So they really make Platoon seem to be this strong, imposing enemy in this issue. Like they spend this whole issue trying to take him out because he's on the Brooklyn Bridge and he's trying to cause trouble. And again, I like the fight. It shows them in some really heated spots, like they're trying to escape, and it's got a lot of intense moments. My issue with this is not at all with this issue. Like, I think that this is fine. It leads into what the conflict is supposed to be well. It's more with this. So at the end of the Platoon, the second issue, there's actually more platoons. There's the company behind Platoon decides to go all out and just release what prototypes they have into the public to just cause a stir. They go full bad guy in the 3rd issue, which again is fine, makes sense, but I feel like they should have spent more time with either just Danny and Peter going through and stopping the bad guys and see the effects of these on the world, maybe have some sold to others, leading to other stories down the line, but they don't do that. Or they could have had a couple of other New York heroes step in, still keep it intimate, you know, maybe don't bring in, like, the big guns, but have people help round up the storm, or the platoon suits throughout the city. Like, have them cause a little bit of terror. I feel like that was kind of needed in this story. Instead, in Storm Warnings, which again, the name Storm Warnings implies that there is more to this. And I guess that there is, because there's a cliffhanger in the end. But it also says that different writers are going to have their hands in the pot, and it's not going to lead to anything, which in fact is the case, because the next comic actually talks about how it's a new era, and the Hobgoblin is a villain, and this whole story is not brought up in the next issue, from what I understand. The way that this ends, it feels very finite, and there's an end to this Platoon saga. And I think that I feel like if they wanted to play up the issues with arms dealing and black market dealing and stuff like that, they could have made this Platoon army that's in the cover of this a more imposing threat. You know, and that's ultimately my biggest issue with it. The resolution feels really swift. While it took them pretty much a whole issue to kill this platoon or subdue this platoon, they deal with all of the others in this issue, and it feels really rushed as a result. A lot of the combat feels very rushed, and they seemingly quickly deal with all of the others like they're nothing. And it's, I don't know, it feels like it undermines the build-up, and I feel like if they would have delved more into Danny's company at jeopardy, as opposed to, like, they should have fleshed this out more with Danny having to deal with the public reaction to this, knowing that his company was affiliated with it. Because even if they lost the data, the reporters still have notes, I'm sure, like physical notes, so they could have easily transposed those again digitally and made a press story out of this that buries Danny Rand. And they could have fleshed out an arc of him having to deal, because there's a big part in this with media consumption and media spinning and company, the way the public views a company. That's a big part of the story, and I feel like to make that more prevalent, they should have had Danny's company in jeopardy. They also make it a point to have Peter's initial motivations be to save his own job, which they could have also continued to make more prevalent as the story went on. Like, they should have had his stakes more established, you know, because they treat it like just because they delete all of the data, that it's gone. That part of the plot is not a problem anymore. There's even a scene where the reporter that initially did the research on the Rand Corporation talks to Iron Fist, and he doesn't bring it up. Like, he doesn't even try to defend his company in that conversation, in that small little conversation, which is just really weird. Like, I feel like they were burying parts of the plot throughout the story to focus on the combat in the last issue, and that is like, there's some scenes where they still deal with the arms companies having problems with maintaining supply and demand or maintaining their public image. And I think that the company's buyout at the very end is supposed to be their comeuppance, but I don't know, again, it just felt rushed. I wasn't happy with ultimately how this story wrapped up, but again, I really like this setup. Like, the way this one is written especially, I wish that there was more of this throughout this entire story, because I feel like once they do introduce Platoon, that's it. The story's done. There's no more. Like, there's no more intrigue. There's no more diving more into it, you know, so that's upsetting. But, yeah, that's kind of my take on this. I think that it's alright. I know that there's better Spider-Man stories, and I know that there's better Iron Fist stories. I got this initially at Comic-Con a couple years ago, mostly because of this. Because, again, I like Iron Fist, and you guys know I fucking love Spider-Man, so I wanted to see what they would do together. And, again, I love this foundation. They should have just done more to improve or flesh out the arc more. And those are my thoughts on it. I feel like if you want a good read at least pick up this. If you want to see dialogue that I like between these two characters, read this one. If you want to see good action, you could see this. If you want to see Spider-Man and Iron Fist put on their toes, read this. The conclusion is just really underwhelming. And maybe they do continue this in the next issues, but as far as this story, Storm Warnings, goes, it doesn't feel like a setup for anything. It just feels like a short story that they tie up way too quickly. What are your thoughts on Spider-Man? What do you think of Iron Fist? What do you think of this show? This is the second episode of it, and I'm more happy with this one than I was the Gambit one. And that's maybe because I had more critiques to make about it. But yeah, let me know what you think. I don't know what story I'm going to tackle next, but I did want to make this one the next one because, again, it's a short story, and it's one that I could provide better critiques of. I'm going to get out of here, though. Thank you for watching. Thank you for the support. I have been Viral Rack. You guys take videos, lessons, situations, and I'll see you another day.